All right, fourth graders. Mr. Klingenback here to finish up chapter 5. Who's the dark haired one? Okay. Now, if you remember in part 1, okay, before we stopped, Anne Marie and Ellen were getting ready for bed. Remember, Ellen is now living with Anne Marie and her family. Ellen is Jewish, and her family is worried that the Nazis, the Germans, are going to come and try and take the family away. So Ellen is pretending to be one of Anne Marie's sisters. Okay, so they're getting ready for bed. They're talking about, if they're nervous, if they're worried. They talk a little bit about Lise, Anne Marie's older sister, who died, was hit by a car. Kind of mysterious. We still don't know exactly what happened, but they talk a little bit about that. And then they go to sleep. And then the last thing we read was it was hours later, but still dark, when she was awakened abruptly by the pounding on the apartment door. So let's pick up from where we left off. In this scene, you're really going to want to do some envisioning. So that's making a mental movie in your mind, really imagining what the different characters are doing so you can understand the exciting stuff that happens, okay? All right. Anne Marie eased the bedroom door open quietly, only a crack, and peeked out. Behind her, Ellen was sitting up, her eyes wide. She could see Mama and Papa in their night clothes moving about. Mama held a lighted candle, but as Anne Marie watched, she went to a lamp and switched it on. It was so long a time since they had dared to use the strictly rationed electricity after dark that the light in the room seemed startling to Anne Marie. Watching through the slightly opened bedroom door, she saw her mother look automatically to the blackout curtains, making certain they were tightly drawn. Papa opened the front door to the soldiers. "This is the Johansson apartment?" A deep voice asked the question loudly, in the terribly accented Danish. "Our name is on the door, and I see you have a flashlight," Papa answered. "What do you want? Is something wrong?" "I understand you are a friend of your neighbors, the Rosens, Mrs. Johansson," the soldier said angrily. "Sophie Rosen is my friend, that is true," Mama said quietly. "Please, could you speak more softly? My children are asleep." "Then you will be so kind as to tell me where the Rosens are." He made no effort to lower his voice. "I assume they are at home, sleeping. It is 4 in the morning, after all," Mama said. Anne Marie heard the soldier stalk across the living room toward the kitchen. From her hiding place in the narrow sliver of open doorway, she could see the heavy uniformed man, a holstered pistol at his waist, in the entrance to the kitchen, peering in toward the sink. Another German voice said, "The Rosens' apartment is empty. We are wondering if they might be visiting their good friends, the Johanssons." "Well," said Papa, moving slightly so that he was standing in front of Anne Marie's bedroom door, and she could see nothing except the dark blur of his back. "As you can see, you are mistaken. There is no one here but my family. You will not object if we look around." The voice was harsh, and it was not a question. "It seems we have no choice," Papa replied. "Please, don't wake my children," Mama requested again. "There's no need to frighten the little ones." The heavy booted feet moved across the floor again and into the other bedroom. A closet door opened and closed with a bang. Anne Marie eased her bedroom door closed silently. She stumbled through the darkness to the bed. "Ellen," she whispered urgently, "take your necklace off." Ellen's hands flew to her neck. Desperately, she began trying to unhook the tiny clasp. Outside the bedroom door, the harsh voices and heavy footsteps continued. Remember, this is Ellen's necklace, the Star of David. And if you previewed the vocabulary, you know it's a necklace that some Jewish people wear. "I can't get it open," Ellen said frantically. "I never take it off. I can't even remember how to open it." Anne Marie heard a voice just outside the door. "What is here?" "Shh," her mother replied. "My daughter's bedroom. They're sound asleep." Hold still, Anne-Marie commanded. This will hurt. She grabbed the little gold chain, yanked with all her strength, and broke it. As the door opened and light flooded into the bedroom, she crumpled it into her hand and closed her fingers tightly. Terrified, both girls looked up at the three Nazi officers who had entered the room. One of the men aimed a flashlight around the bedroom. He went to the closet and looked inside. Then, with a sweep of his gloved hand, he pushed to the floor several coats and a bathrobe that hung from pegs on the wall. There was nothing else in the room except a chest of drawers, the blue decorated trunk in the corner, and a heap of Kirsty's dolls piled in a small rocking chair. The flashlight beam touched each thing in turn. Angrily, the officer turned toward the bed. Get up, he ordered. Come out here. Trembling, the two girls rose from the bed and followed him, brushing past the two remaining officers in the doorway to the living room. Anne-Marie looked around. These three uniformed men were different from the ones on the street corners. The street soldiers were often young, sometimes ill at ease, and Anne-Marie remembered how the giraffe had, for a moment, let his harsh pose slip and had smiled at Kirsty. But these men were older, and their faces were set with anger. Her parents were standing beside each other, their faces tense, but Kirsty was nowhere in sight. Thank goodness that Kirsty slept through almost everything. If they had wakened her, she would be wailing. Or worse, she would be angry, and her fists would fly. Your names? The officer barked. Anne-Marie Johansson, and this is my sister. Quiet. Let her speak for herself. Your name? He was glaring at Ellen. Ellen swallowed. Lise, she said. She cleared her throat. Lise Johansson. The officer stared at them grimly. Now, Mama said in a strong voice, you have seen that we are not hiding anything. May my children go back to bed? The officer ignored her. Suddenly, he grabbed a handful of Ellen's hair. Ellen winced. He laughed scornfully. You have a blonde child sleeping in the other room. You have this blonde daughter. He gestured toward Anne-Marie with his head. Where did you get the dark-haired one? He twisted the lock of Ellen's hair. From a different father? From the milkman? Papa stepped forward. Don't speak to my wife in such a way. Let go of my daughter, or I will report you for such treatment. Or maybe you got her someplace else, the officer continued with a sneer. From the Rosens? For a moment, no one spoke. Then Anne-Marie, watching in panic, saw her father move swiftly to the small bookcase and take out a book. She saw that he was holding the family photograph album. Very quickly, he searched through its pages, found what he was looking for, and tore out 3 pictures from 3 separate pages. He handed them to the German soldier who released Ellen's hair. You will see each of my daughters, each with her name written on the photograph, Papa said. Anne-Marie knew instantly which photographs he had chosen. The album contained many snapshots, all the poorly focused pictures of school events and birthday parties. But it also contained a portrait, taken by a photographer, of each girl as a tiny infant. Mama had written, in her delicate handwriting, the name of each baby daughter across the bottom of those photographs. She realized, too, with an icy feeling, why Papa had torn them from the book. At the bottom of each page, below the photograph itself, was written the date, and the real Lise Johansson had been born 21 years earlier. Kirsten Elizabeth, the officer read, looking at Kirsty's baby picture. He let the photograph fall to the floor. Anne-Marie, he read next, glanced at her, and dropped the second photograph. Lise Marguerite, he finally read, and stared at Ellen for a long, unwavering moment. In her mind, Anne-Marie pictured the photograph that he held. The baby, wide-eyed, propped against a pillow, her tiny hand holding a silver teething ring, her bare feet visible below the hem of an embroidered dress, the wispy curls dark. The officer tore the photograph in half and dropped the pieces on the floor. Then he turned, the heels of his shiny boots grinding into the pictures, and left the apartment. Without a word, the other two officers followed. Papa stepped forward and closed the door behind him. Anne-Marie relaxed the clenched fingers of her right hand, which still clutched Ellen's necklace. She looked down and saw that she had imprinted the Star of David into her palm. And that's the end of that chapter.